first thing that God said to man. That He's like, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be fruitful and multiply. Connection was important. He said, this is it. You're created for that. And we know that as Christians, that we were meant and created to be connected, not just physically to other human beings, but also be connected to our God, to our Father, to have connection. He would come to us and he'd say things like, look, the example that I want to give to you, what I want to be to you is I want you to be my child and me be your father. I want there to be a connection between us. But connection's a scary thing. Because in order to have connection, you have to be vulnerable. And if you're vulnerable with somebody, then that means you got to be honest. And if you're honest with somebody, then you got to tell them what's up with you, who you really are. And that's scary. Because if sometimes you tell somebody who you really are, they might not want to be connected to you anymore. Sometimes you tell somebody what's really going on in your life, oh, that person's messed up. That's jacked up, man. You know, I don't try to put on anything to where you think something about me. You know, if people come up and said, you know, I appreciate your stance for Jesus. I appreciate you guys living what you believe. And I appreciate them coming up and saying that to me. But I also know that that just means they don't know me very well. You know, they don't know the things that I've said. Me and John were talking about it earlier. They're like, you know, people canceling everybody, finding old recordings of somebody saying something and then just canceling them because of some old recording. Good Lord, man. Somebody pulled out some old things I've said. Somebody pulled out my closet. Like, I got enough skeletons to fill everybody's closet. You know, if you guys knew the sins that I've committed, if I sat here and just was vulnerable enough to share them with you, you would burn your phones just in case a disciple song played on it. But that's, you know, in order to be connected to somebody, you tell them the truth. They may not want to be connected with you. And that's the fear that we all have. And we begin to medicate our shame. See, there's a difference between guilt and shame. Everybody's got guilt. Guilt's great, actually. Guilt is great. Some people tell us guilt's not good. Guilt's great. Guilt is the ability to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. If somebody in here has sinned against me, how many of you would be willing to say, hey man, I'm sorry, I made a mistake? How many of you would be willing to do that, right? Shame is different. See, shame comes along and says, I'm sorry, I am a mistake. You see the difference? Shame comes along and says, I'm sorry, I don't measure up. I'm sorry, I am not good enough. I'm sorry that I am less than what you expected of me. I'm sorry that I don't amount to what I'm supposed to be. I'm sorry that I'm unworthy of connection with you. That's shame. Guilt, I'm sorry I made a mistake. Shame, I'm sorry I am a mistake. And the one thing that you can find about people who have connection with God, the one thing that you can find about all of them is they believe this one truth. They believe that they are worthy of connection. Not because of anything that they've done, but because He loves them.
Amen.
Because He has said, I love you even before we knew each other, even while you were still sinners, even before all of that. I demonstrated just how much I love you that I gave my son Jesus for you. I have said you're worthy, and I've made you worthy. And those of us that are connected to Him, we feel worthy, not because of anything that we've done, but because of what He has done. Are you with me tonight?
Amen.
See, shame, if you medicate your shame, you can trace depression and suicide and addiction and everything. You can trace it all back to shame. Every single ritual that we do that leads to some kind of acting out or bad habit or some kind of thing that makes you sit in a circle that starts with, hi, my name is, which I've been there. And you get into that situation, what are you doing? You're saying, I'm medicating the shame. I don't feel good about myself. And so I'm medicating that shame because I want to feel better. I don't like that I'm less than. I don't like to feel like I don't measure up. I don't like to feel like I am a mistake. So I want to fix it. And so I try to fix it by some fantasizing about something, and then some kind of ritual, and then it leads to some kind of acting out, which leads to despair. But if I were to just simply believe the truth, instead of saying I am a mistake, that God would come to me and he would say something like, you are my beloved child. I have loved you since before you took your first breath. You have a plan in my house. You have a home in my house. I have prepared a place for you. You are unique. No one has a fingerprint like you. No one has DNA like you. No one is going to walk the path that you are supposed to walk. You are my beloved child, and I have fully redeemed you and rescued you. And no matter what you've done, you are worthy to be in my house because my son has cleansed you of all of your sins. And you say, oh, I believe that. Instead of fantasizing about medicating my shame, I now have a vision from God for my life. And that vision leads to me having good habits. And those good habits lead to righteousness, which leads to peace and joy, the opposite of despair. So what do I believe? Do I believe the truth? Because if I believe the truth about him, then there's nothing to fix. I don't have to medicate my shame if I believe the truth about what God says about me. I don't have to drown it and turn my brain cells off with some substance to make me feel better about myself if I believe what he said about me. Amen. If I believe the truth about me. See, check this out. God comes to us and he says crazy things. You know, if you read the Bible and you'll say the Bible out loud, there are things that you say out loud that simply just don't make sense. Here's one of them. Jesus comes to us and he says this, you know, he says, or this is written by the writer of Hebrews, and he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to come boldly before the throne of God and find mercy and grace. Well, who needs mercy? Yeah. What has someone done in order to need mercy? They've sinned. Who here feels bold after you've sinned? Come on. All right, did you ever think about that? That verse makes no sense. Come boldly before the throne of God because you're a mistake. Right? Because you are completely royal screw up. So come boldly before the throne of God and find mercy and grace. Check this out. The word courage comes from this Latin word, cor, C-O-R. And what it means, it means to have heart. It's like the word for heart. So have you ever heard somebody with courage? They say they have a lot of heart. And that comes from the place of being able to tell your story, to have heart. It is connected to your story. Now check this out. What if you said this? Be bold. Boldly come before the throne of God. Have courage to come before the throne of God and be vulnerable and tell him your story. Tell him who you really are. The one place in the entire universe where you can be yourself and know that you will still have connection. So come boldly, have courage to come before the throne of God, because it's in that place where you find what you need. You find connection, you find mercy, but you also find grace to help you in your time of need. And that's the beauty thing of walking with Jesus, is grace is not just unmerited favor, it's also the supernatural ability to do what you could not do on your own. It's having a relationship with somebody who has the power to do anything. It's having a relationship with somebody to where now I can say it out loud and mean it, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I don't have to medicate my shame. I can overcome addiction. I can overcome shame. I can overcome any area of my life. I can overcome bad habits. I can overcome hurting people. I can overcome being angry. I can overcome gossip. You know, we talk about gossip and backbiting, and it's almost funny. It's a funny kind of sin. But in the Bible, it's like right there next to murder, you know. And have you ever thought about like why gossip is so bad? Why are you doing it? Why would you say something bad about somebody? Is it because you're medicating your shame? You feel bad about yourself, and so you need to say something bad about somebody else in order to feel good about you? Is it not the same reason you pour 32 beers down your throat, the same exact reason that you would say something bad about somebody else? They're all connected to medicating our shame if we could just simply believe the truth. You're worthy because he said you're worthy. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, he says this. He says, you are God's masterpiece. Created, and the plan that he had for, created to do the plan that he had for you long ago. You find out what long ago means in chapter 1. He says, long ago, before the foundations of the world were laid. Created to do good works, a plan for you that was planned long ago. What that tells me is this. I have a buddy who's a lead singer of a band. We were talking on the phone the other day. He says, man, I just get so discouraged. I don't measure up. I just get so, we're all facing it, all right? Lead singer, Christian band, everybody, pastors, doesn't matter. We all face shame, these feelings of inadequacy, these feelings of not measuring up. He said, man, I look at like our Spotify numbers, I look at people listening to our band, and I just feel like, we don't measure up. I get so discouraged with that. I said, listen to me. Can you look back in your life and see God using you? He's like, yeah. I said, do you have like stories that are just crazy of people's lives being changed, of you just being willing to be you? Did you do anything great, or was it God just doing it through you? He's like, yeah, man. I was like, are there a lot of stories? He's like, so many stories. I said, why don't you take a look at those numbers for a minute? Why don't you turn off the world's numbers? Because the world's numbers, that makes you think like you're somebody to them. But God's numbers are this. I created you. I've had a plan for you, and it's nobody else's plan. I don't need you to be anybody else. I want you to be you. I don't want you to look at Facebook and look at somebody else and want what they have. I want you to be you. I want you to wake up tomorrow and be the best you can possibly be, because you are my masterpiece. No one else has your fingerprint. No one else has your DNA. And no one else can do what you do the way you do it. And I will have people cross your path that are only going to cross your path. And you will change their life because I have called them to be in your path. There's people in my path that you'll never meet. See, this disciple thing is just, it's a small part of my life. I was on the phone with my accountant one day, and I said, are you okay? He's like, not really. I said, well, can I pray for you? He said, man, you have no idea how much that means to me. I prayed for him. 3 years goes by, and I'm sitting in his office, we're doing taxes or something, and tears are streaming down his face. He says, Kevin, do you remember when you prayed for me? I said, yeah. He goes, that was 3 years ago. And I said, oh, okay. He said, you know what was going on when you prayed for me? I was like, no. He said, I was on my back porch, and I had a gun to my head, and I was about to take my life. And he said, I prayed, God, if there's any way you could forgive me, then I need a miracle. He said, when I said the words miracle, the phone rang, and it was you. And you said, can I pray for you? He said, never in my life have I needed somebody to pray for me more than that moment right there. You see, long ago, God had a plan for my life that I would just simply do the smallest thing. Have you ever noticed it's the smallest acts of love that have the most powerful miracles? I didn't even really do anything. All I said was, can I pray for you? And God did the rest. A little boy had some fish and some loaves of bread that doesn't even sound like anything, but he gave it to Jesus, and Jesus did miracles with it, and he fed 5,000 people. What do you have? What has he given you? I don't care if you think it's small, and I don't care if the world thinks it's small. When you give it to him, he does miracles with it. My thing that I had, my fish and my loaves of bread that day, was the simple phrase, can I pray for you? And it was exactly what the person needed on the other end of that. That was my path. That was somebody brought in my path. Somebody is going to be brought in your path tomorrow. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. God did a miracle, and I didn't even know it. How many acts of love, small little acts of love, have you done in people's lives, and God did a miracle in their life, and you didn't even know it? I told my friend who was struggling with what he was struggling with, and I said, listen, because he's like, man, God doesn't need me. Oh, it's true. It's true. God doesn't need you, but he chose you.
Amen.
And that makes the work that he has for you special. And it makes it important. Yes, God doesn't need you. God chose you. And your work matters. And your life matters. And I don't care if anybody comes to you and says it's small. It's not. It's from him. So we get up here and we play in front of 5 people or 500 people or 5,000. We've learned to give it all every single time, whatever we have, because we believe our work matters, not because of us, but because he chose us. Because we're his masterpiece. And so are you. If you're here tonight and you feel far from God, here's what I want you to do. I want you to keep your eyes open. If you got sin in your life, I want you to be vulnerable with me right now and just know that everybody has sinned, okay? I want you to just be vulnerable with me. You don't have to tell me what it is or anything, but just be honest and just be like, I need to have courage tonight to be able to go to God and tell him my story and be honest with God. The one person you can't be honest with, that you need to go to him and be honest with him and just tell him what's up and be your real self in front of him. And know that that's the one place that you can do it without fear, to know that he will not strike you down. The exact opposite, he will wipe it away and give you grace. If you're here tonight and you say, I need mercy tonight, I need courage, I need to go to God and ask him to cleanse me. If that's you, I want you to lift up your hand right where you're at. Just lift it up right where you're at. God bless you, man. God bless you guys. Anybody else say, I got sin in my life, I need to make things right. Just lift it up right where you're at. Just lift it up. Anybody else? I need to go to God and find mercy tonight. I need to find mercy. Anybody else? Awesome. All right, put it down. This cool thing about this relationship with God that we have, he says that we have, his mercies are new every morning. And like we've already established, who needs mercy? Somebody who's messed up. And he says they're new every morning. Well, that's just in case something happens every day. That's just in case. Because the way I was brought up here in the South, I was brought up that if you sin, you made a mistake, you're out, you're done. Your relationship with him is over. You're out, you're done. You don't measure up, you can't do it. This Christianity thing's too hard. But that's not it. Those of you who just lift up your hand, I want to pray with you in just 1 minute. But before we pray, I want to talk to people in the room that aren't Christians. I just want to tell you this. I grew up thinking if I gave my life to Jesus that I had to be perfect or I was out. All these other Christians, they were being good and they were just being better. And I was never a good Christian. I was always in trouble. I was always in the back of a police car doing something. I ran from a cop in Rockford, of all places, for no reason. He just turned on his blue lights. And I ran from him, and it was just driving down the streets, and the street turned into a field of cows. Only in Rockford can that happen. The streets just turned into fields, And the police officer, he was like, gun drawn, get down on the ground, and I'm in a Christian rock band at this time in my life, okay? I'm just telling you that my story is not all right. And he's like looking through my car, looking for drugs, and he's like, I don't find any drugs in there. And I was like, I don't have any drugs. And he's like, well, why were you running? I was like, because I'm stupid. I don't know. Because I'm really dumb. He was like, I agree. You are really dumb. And I thought that's what being a Christian is, that you got to have it all figured out. Check this out. I want to tell you this. Being a Christian is not about being perfect. It is about having a relationship with a Father who is God. And it's about you being his child. My children are here tonight. They're watching this show, and I love them so much. Guess what all my children could do when they were born? Nothing. Guess what all of them did when they were trying to learn how to walk? Fell down. Guess how I threatened them to kick them out of the house every time they fell down. No, I never did that, because why? That sounds dumb, right? But that's exactly what we think about God. That we fall down, he's going to kick us out. Listen, every time I would come up and I'd be like, you got this. You got this. I know you can do it. Each time you fall down, you're getting stronger. You got this. Well, I had COVID Back in July, I was downstairs, banished to the downstairs by my wife. So I was watching a Beastie Boys documentary because I'm super holy. And I was watching this Beastie Boys documentary, and she'd bring me, my gruel at the top of the stairs. I'd go up and get my gruel and then walk back downstairs with my gruel and sit there and eat it. And I was watching this, and the Beastie Boys, they were very vulgar in their early years, and they had like women dancing, half-naked poles and on their shows and all this kind of stuff. And this guy had kind of a change in his heart, a few years later, and he said, man, we're going to stop being disrespectful to women, and we're going to start writing about we should respect women. It's pretty cool. And the other two guys didn't really agree or disagree. They were just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And so they decided to start rapping about respecting women. And this magazine interviewer came and talked to them, and they're like, who are you to say that we should respect women? Aren't you the same guys rapping about all these vulgar things with women, having half-naked women dancing on stage, objectifying to the world, people who are singing out your lyrics and just saying all these negative, horrible things about women? Who are you to say that we should respect women? Does this not make you a hypocrite? My favorite word in the entire English language, hypocrite. And Adam looked at her and he said this. He said, ma'am, I'd rather be a hypocrite than stay the same person forever. Yeah. And my eyes got real big and I said, I cannot wait to get out of this COVID prison so I can share with people the gospel of the Beastie Boys. This is so good. I would rather be a hypocrite than stay the same person forever. Ladies and gentlemen, that is some gospel right there. I don't care what other people think about their relationship with God. My relationship with God is He is my Father and I am His child. And I do fall down, but He is a good Father and He picks me up. And it doesn't mean I make excuses, and it doesn't mean me falling down is okay. It's not okay. It hurts me. It hurts my family. It hurts the ones around me. I need to try to do better, but I have a good and a gracious and an awesome God who is my Father, who will give me power to overcome any obstacle that I face, who will give me power and strength to climb and conquer any mountain and any foe and any enemy that is ever in my path. If you don't know Jesus tonight, here's what I need you to know. If you don't call yourself a child of God, I need you to know that very thing. That to take the pressure off of being perfect, God wants to change your life, and He does it through relationship. Every single one of my kids speak English. Did they go to school for it? No. Did they try really hard for it? No. Did they fast and pray 40 days and 40 nights to get this miracle of language? No. They hang out with me. That's why when they speak, they have southern accents. They don't speak Chinese. They don't speak Spanish. They speak English, and they speak it with southern accents. How did they get it? Relationship. What does God want with you? Relationship. How much effort do you put into it? It's going to amount to very little. How much fasting and praying you put into it? It will amount very little. How much effort and just work, and I'm going to try to do so hard and just be good and whatever. It's going to amount very little. I didn't say it didn't amount to anything. I said it would amount very little. But when you have a relationship with Him, guess what? You start to pick up His accent. You start to talk like He talks. Start to love the things He loves. Walk like He walks. Love like He loves. Forgive like He forgives. You ever met somebody bitter? Yeah. You ever met somebody who forgives? Yeah. That ain't natural. Somebody taught them how to do that through relationship. It's pretty great, isn't it? Pretty great. You can do it too. You can do it too. Here's what I want to ask you. I asked everybody to keep their eyes open a second ago. It's because I'm talking to Christians. Now I'm talking to people who aren't children of God. And I just want you to feel comfortable. That's all. Just like nobody's judging you. I want you to feel comfortable. I'm not going to do anything weird or embarrass you, okay? All I'm going to ask is everybody close your eyes. That's it. So everybody close your eyes. That's all I'm asking. If you're here tonight, you're like, yes, I want that. Just like when I gave my life to Jesus, my granddad was standing right there, had the words to pray with me. Just like when my friend was on his back porch with a gun to his head about to take his life. And God put me on the phone with him. And I said, can I pray for you? All that happened on purpose. It was like designed by God on purpose. And tonight I believe that you are here on purpose. That you're not here by mistake. God brought you into this room on purpose, for a reason. And just like my granddad was standing next to me, he had the words, tonight if you're here and God brought you here to give your life to God and become a child of God, I have the words. I can pray with you. I can take you to him. You can become his child forever. Not a child that has to be perfect, but a child that can be sure that if you fall down, your Father will pick you up. He will change your life. You will be different. You will not be the same as this world. He will change you every single day. If you're here tonight and you're not a child of God and you're like, I want to be. I want to be. I would rather be a child of God than stay the same person forever. If that's you, I want you to know nobody's eyes are open. So it's just between you and him, man. If you're here tonight and you say, I want to give my life to God and become a child of God, I want you to lift up your hand right now. Just take your hand and just put it up in the air, right where you're at. I see you. I got you. I got you. Anybody else? I got you. Thank you. I see you, buddy. I got you. Anybody else? Say, I want to give my life to Jesus. I want to become a child of God. I see you, man. I see you. All right, that took a few seconds. So here's what I'll do. I'll just give you a few more moments. If you're thinking about it, here's what I want you to do. If your hand feels like it's 5